Tennessee 50 scampering around out there. Wacky. All right, Friday preparation today, and get out there and get ready to go see the monsters of the Midway.
What did you think of Cesare's game against the Titans and what he showed you guys in terms of his growth and development last week?
Well, there were some steps that we took forward in the quarterback department, and that was terrific. Going back to the second half of the Baltimore game, and then in Las Vegas, then versus the Niners, and then, of course, versus Tennessee, we're getting some good experience, and that's really the best teacher experiences. And he's doing a nice job of applying the lessons learned, both when we have our triumphs and our good plays, but also when we stub our toe.
One of the things he was doing, especially in the Rams preseason, drifting back. I mean, it seemed like he had a habit of drifting back when he was in the pocket. It seems like he's done a lot better job as he's gotten more comfortable in staying within the pocket, playing within the pocket more and more. Is that just a byproduct of being out there and getting game reps, something you can't really have, you can't break it with, just in practice?
I think it's definitely with the experience and the reps and finding out how fast these guys are at this level. John Elway used to say the same thing when he came out of college. He felt like he could run away from people because he did in high school and college. But these defenders at this level, they hawk you down or they trap you. They're smart. They don't let you out like you used to be able to get out of the pocket at different levels of football. So I think it's a trial and error thing. I think most quarterbacks, if not all quarterbacks, go through that, finding out how quickly these suckers break on the ball, how strong they are when they do get you, and you feel like you have the ball secured, but somehow they pry it loose and wishbone you. So it's that's probably common for each and every fella who's played this position at this level.
You've been here since day one when Shooter got here. How can you kind of quantify the development he's made in all aspects of the game since he stepped foot to now when he's your starting quarterback?
Well, like all of us, I think back to my rookie year 34 years ago, came out of a system at Oregon where we never even called the pass protection. The offense that Shedeur ran, the two offenses he ran in Colorado, plus the offense at Jackson State, plus the offense, in high school at Trinity. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get faced with. My rookie coach was Norval Turner there in Dallas, and he used to get after me because I wouldn't call the play correctly in the huddle. So all of us rookies have mountains to climb in terms of how well were we prepared for this level, whether we're in the huddle, we're in the shotgun, we're under center, we're no huddling, we're sending motions. Every language is different. So he's had a lot to adapt to, like Dylan has also, like little Bobby Musgrave did 34 years ago.
Been for Shedeur in terms of his footwork? I know that he came into this team wanting to approach that specifically. What has been the key as you work with him to try to improve that on the field?
Well, he works hard at it. Any gains, of course, that these guys are making, it's because they are determined to get it right. They're determined to figure this whole pro game out, talking about the rookie quarterbacks. And Shedeur has worked really hard on his footwork and his rhythm and his feet, really telling him how to get through progressions. The first route might be thrown on the plant before we even take a hitch step or a gather step in the pocket. And then moving to number 2 to number 3, a little bit like the 60-yard touchdown to Jerry the other day. His feet told him that initially the front side of the pattern wasn't working. It wasn't looking very appetizing. And sure enough, when he got to his second or third hitch step or gather step, he inherently got back to that backside in cut, and that was outstanding.
In terms of his elusiveness and being able to slip the sacks and step up in the pocket and buy himself the time, is that about what you thought it would be, or in some ways is that even exceeding your expectations so far?
I think it's about what we thought or anticipated. Most fellas in this day and age are going to have to extend the play and escape just because the defenses are so good. I don't think we're not seeing any more Troy Aikmans or Dan Marinos that are just statues in the pocket and they just deal from the pocket and crush a defense. The defenses now are so advanced and so good that we're not seeing any 6'5", 6'6", just statues back there, even though Phillip Rivers is back. But the guy we're playing this week in Chicago, same skill set. He can throw, but also he can extend plays and he can get out there and create when the defenses take away what is intended.
About how much Shedeur saw different offenses and things, and then the adjustment to the NFL. How challenging is it to break some of those habits for a rookie quarterback? Things that maybe you guys want him to sort of get better at the NFL level. How long can that take? Is it sort of based on each person? But what was that process kind of like? I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure it's based on the individual, but it takes hard work. It just doesn't happen, and it takes hard work, like we all know, to reestablish habits and make them part of your fabric, so you don't have to think about it. The last thing we want somebody doing is out there thinking on the field about my footwork or the way I throw. It's not golf. There's no time for swing thoughts up on the tee box. We've got to do what comes naturally to us, and that's establishing those habits, as you alluded to.
Bill, you've been working pretty closely with Tommy here for a little while. What have you kind of learned about Tommy Rees as a coordinator, play caller, just all of those things?
I've learned a lot. I've learned Mike Mularkey, a guy that I worked with down in Atlanta, he used to talk about being a lifelong learner. And us as coaches, we should learn something, and we do, every time we walk off a practice field or a game field. Every day at this job, we'd come in and Mike Mularkey had a file, and he'd type it in or write it in about things that he learned each and every day that we didn't know the minute we went out to practice. And I learned from Tommy each and every day. He works really hard at his craft. The other day, he was a step ahead of the defense there in Tennessee with the plays he called. He was a step ahead on that long pass down there in Las Vegas when we flushed out of the pocket versus cover zero. He's been a step ahead of these opposing coordinators. I like being around him. I like guys who are tightly wound, and Tommy is, because he cares, guys who actually care about football and care about their profession.
We know that Shedeur's now slated to finish out the season as the starter, which Kevin announced this week. What do you think, in a 7-game sample size, if he gets through the season healthy and all that, what do you think you can tell or learn or gather about him sort of moving forward into the future, about him as the quarterback for this team?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm in a good spot to answer that today. That's probably going to be for the off season, where we can take a deep breath and reflect a little bit. Right now, we're pretty much in as you can imagine, our weekly battle mode of getting ready for a Friday practice in red area and making sure we're sharp on the goal line and 2-point plays and all that, so we can go put our best foot forward versus Chicago. Then after that 7-game stretch, as you described, there'll be time in the off season to reflect and really break it down and get to the crux of the matters.
How much has Deshaun been able to do in these couple of weeks, and how's he looked doing what he's doing?
Yeah, Deshaun's doing more out there on the practice field, more than he did last week, and we're going to have some good drills with him today and get him some plays. And so I think each and every day he's doing more, and it's just great to have him out there. Like I've talked about, it's been great to have him on the sideline for our young QBs. It was great to have him there for Joe. He and Joe have had a really good rapport. Of course, they were, battling against each other, warriors that saw each other, of course, in the AFC, for those years. So just been a pleasure to have Deshaun here this year. I don't know where we'd be without him.
You say you give some plays, do you mean scout team or end of game?
Yes, some scout team and some simulation. A lot of times when there's a drill going on, we go try to steal some plays in the back, and I try to play center, and we recruit some guys to play wide receiver just to give guys it's almost like having a meeting on our feet. It's a more active meeting than sitting in the classroom looking at the overhead projector.
In terms of, you talked about Shedeur's adjustment to the NFL. What have you seen in terms of his ability to pick all this stuff up as quickly as he needed to, and then also to correct his mistakes?
Well, it's a difficult task. He's really working hard at it with his study habits and making sure that you can visualize where all the players are in the various patterns. So he's working really hard at it. And there's different study guide aids, whether it be flashcards or on your laptop or watching the film or having more active meetings, walk-through meetings. We used to do that when I was coaching at Cal and also at Oakland and Denver. A lot of our meetings were more active meetings where we're out on the turf and it's a meeting, but we're moving and we're walking through it, and it helps with, at least it helps me. It helps a lot of people, I would imagine, with visualization. Okay. Thank
How we doing, folks? All right.
You said before the season that you saw more in Myles and you thought that he had still more left in him. Is this what you envisioned?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, every year that you go on with a dominant pass rusher, you expect the most from him. And but I said it in the beginning when you watch him in the preseason, it was probably the most dominant preseason he's ever had. I mean, he didn't lose one-on-one rep, and that goes for the joint practices and our practices. And he had a singular focus on just dominating every play, and you saw that throughout the year. So I'm happy with what he's done and how he's developed. As a football player, you think you got all the answers, but you really don't. You never stop growing, and he's a testament to that. Like, that guy works so hard to continue to develop and be the most dominant defensive player that I think we've ever seen.
The film in this past game against the Titans, as a defensive line, what are some things that you want that group to correct against what's also a really good running team?
Yeah, I mean, hats off to the Titans. They had a good plan on one of the two of those runs, and they got out on us. We got a little loose on, as a defense as a whole. But for the most part, the guys were playing attack, and they were getting off blocks, and they were making plays. But, it just goes to show, like, in this league, you can never fall asleep. And unfortunately, those two plays, we can't get those back. But the guys, they came in just ready to go, and they have their proud defensive line, their proud defense, and they know we got to correct what happened last week.
Myles is out there trying to get this sack record, and now you've got teams that are going to be determined to try to stop that from happening the way that the Titans did. What challenges does that present for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, every week guys are trying. Every team has an NFL, a Myles plan, right? I mean, he's the most dominant pass rusher in the NFL. So every week he's seeing chips, he's seeing guys coming from outside in, double teams, sometimes triple teams, and the biggest thing is the other guys have to continue to step up and make plays. There's going to be teams that are going to try and neutralize Myles, and he's going to do his best to try and get open and get his, like he did this past week. But other guys have to step up and make plays as well.
Do you feel he's the most dominant defensive player you've ever seen?
Me personally, yes. Some people might disagree, but working with him up close now for 2 years and just seeing the type of athlete that he is with the size that he has and the strength and the explosive ability and the bend and the flexibility and the movement skills, there's no one that I can think of that can do some of the things that he does. He's routinely getting chipped from tight ends, backs. He's routinely getting the slide coming to him, a guard coming off and helping out. So, when you got that much attention for you every week and you still putting up the numbers that he's putting up, I mean, that's pretty special, And I may be biased, but, yeah, I think he's the best defensive player I've ever seen.
So when you say that, just to clarify, LT is widely regarded as the greatest defender of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sort of saying that you think Myles has exceeded LT and has taken over the mantle of the...
I'm saying, me personally, with the person that I've worked with. I didn't work with LT, and I was a kid when LT was wrecking shop, okay? And I all the respect in the world for guys like LT, Bruce Smith, the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, there's Green from the LA Rams, Kevin Green. I got all the type of respect for these guys, but I wasn't around. I wasn't watching those guys up close every game, and I don't know how much chips they were getting and what teams were doing to try and stop them. I just know this from the 10 years that I was in the NFL as a player, the 6 years now as a coach, I haven't seen a more dominant football player than that.
Come along, and obviously being pushed into a bigger role with the injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, Mike has done a good job of first of all getting back from injury and just working back into the lineup and doing all he can to try and contribute for the team. He's continually developing every day. He's working. We work together, individually. We watch film together. He comes out early in practice, stays a little later for walkthrough and things like that. So he's doing everything he can so he can continue to play like how he's been playing. Again, with everybody's attention on Myles and things happening with, with obviously Malik now being out, we need all those guys to continue to step up.
We hear all the time about your line being the engine of the defense and how what you guys do up front trickles back into the linebackers and the secondary. But for you, how do those players, how do those safeties, the corners, and the linebackers play maybe impact you guys and what they're able to do back there? How does that impact the line?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about rushing coverage needs to work together, and our job is simple. We're out there to go just wreck shop, and penetrate, disrupt, rush our butts off as much as we can. If they're going to give us time, we're going to get home, and if things happen that where either we're not doing our job or they're not doing their job, we correct it. There's no finger pointing or anything like that. We're all about working together, and it's a tight-knit group. Those guys, we never think about anything about the score or anything like that. We just go out there and just play. And I haven't enjoyed the losses, but I've enjoyed working with this group of men. The character, the work ethic, and it all started in the spring with Jim Schwartz talking about hungry dogs run faster. Those guys really bought into that, and they've been working their butts off since OTA. So. We still got 4 more games to go. We still got a lot of work to do, and I think the guys, as I said before, they have a lot of pride, and they're going to come out here and put some work in.
When you guys talk about all pitching in to make sure that Myles gets this sack record, it seems like a lot of the guys have been selfless about that. Grant talks about I'm going to hold up the quarterback and let Myles come over and get the sack, which of course he tried to do in the past game. But Alex Wright, it looked like he may have been eligible for half a sack in the past game, but he willingly gave that up. So is this a group effort? And then how do you feel about everybody pitching in like that?
Yeah, everybody. We laugh in the room that anybody that's close to getting a sack, they better give it to Myles. But no, I mean the guys really appreciate playing alongside him. And you can see it, they're all happy for him when he gets sacks. And they're all working together. I mean, everybody wants to get on, right? Everybody wants to rush with Myles. Everybody wants to get out there on third down and get their opportunities. But we know that, 4 equals 1. Myles can't do what he's doing unless everybody else is working to collapse the pocket, squeeze the pocket, and help flush the quarterback either to Myles or step up so Myles can come underneath, or one of those other guys gets sacked. So it's not something where everybody's like, hey, hold the quarterback up for Myles. They're all trying to get sacks too. It's just that, we know Myles is going to win. We know he's going to win. Who else is going to win? Who else is going to win their one-on-one matchup or push the pocket enough where somebody gets a sack, not just Myles?
How would you describe Mason's rookie season? How the development, I know he thinks he's been playing better lately. What do you see out of it?
Thank God. When that kid first showed up, and I think we all saw him, we saw that picture of him throwing up, eating too much and throwing up and stuff. And I talk about just how he responds. He works so hard. I don't think people realize just how hard that guy works and how detailed he is in his rush plan and how smart he is. You watch him before the games, he's calling out where all the runs are going every single play. And he has a good relationship with Carson. He does a great job at the point of attack, away from the point of attack. He can skinny through all the trash to close and make a play on a running back. So, I mean, that kid, probably, I'm biased again, one of my favorite draft picks ever because he just works. He doesn't care about getting any type of recognition whatsoever. He doesn't care about getting stats. He just wants to win, and he wants everybody else to play well. And I'm happy that we have that guy. He's done a heck of a job. He's going to be a great pro for a long time, and I think he's just scratching the surface of his potential.
What's it been like just working with Jim this season, and as the wins haven't come, just his attitude and the way he, it seems like it rubs off on the whole defense to still be one of the top units.
Yeah, Jim has been a great leader, and the thing about him is he just keeps the energy up. It's about energy. It's about having swag. It's about continuing to believe in each other, believing in not only each other but yourself. And we haven't been perfect this year, right? But again, Jim he always lets us know, like, hey, we're this close to getting what we want. It's a gap here, a missed tackle here, or a misfit here, but we are a really good dominating defense, because of his leadership and all the guys buying into what he wants to get done.
Myles, and just how dominant he's been. Jim actually said a couple weeks ago that you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's more valuable in this league than Myles, kind of alluding to him being an MVP candidate. Mm-hmm. We know that award has become such a quarterback-driven award at this point.
Right.
What do you think it would take for, like, an edge rusher or a defensive player to actually bring that award home? And do you think Myles is maybe making the best case that we've seen for that?
I definitely think he's making a case for that. I told him, hey, look, man, let's leave no doubt. Get 30 sacks, all right? He's like, the record's 23, and I'm like, leave no doubt. Just keep being dominant. And honestly, he's not really thinking about things like that. He's thinking about just every day, every week, he wants to get a win. And whatever that takes, if it takes him getting 5 sacks, if it takes him getting 1 sack, if it takes him setting up a player, another player setting him up, he just wants to get a win. I want to get a win too, but I also want him to get sacks because he deserves it. He works hard for it. So, it is what it is with that award. I think, if there's a defensive player that is breaking records, that is routinely getting double and triple teamed and is making offensive coordinators lose sleep at night, I think he presents a good case for winning that award.
We always hear that it's not always all about the sacks. It's not about the sacks.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone obviously praises his tackles for loss and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But why is it, in the end, really all about the sacks?
Well, the most important position on an offense is what? Quarterback. Okay, so if you're getting the quarterback down and you're hitting the quarterback and you're chasing the quarterback and you're keeping him off schedule and you're pressuring him every play, that messes up an offense. So I think, with getting sacks and getting to the quarterback and making that quarterback look at the rush and not look at the coverage, I mean, that's why those things are important. I try not to put a big emphasis on sacks. More, hey, let's get pressure on the quarterback, get him down on the ground, keep hitting him. But the sacks, that's what gets your name in the paper. Sacks and TFLs, and Myles is closing on another record, all-time TFL record in the NFL too. So, and he don't even talk about that. He's improved his run defense so much since I've been here. The way he's rushing is amazing, and I just, it's a special year for him as far as statistically. I know he wants to get wins and play in the playoffs and things like that, but you can't just overlook just what he's done this whole entire year. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate you guys.